very good, dude. It's been a minute.
You think?
Yeah.
You're all grown up. You got a beard and tattoos. I don't know what's going on.
No, it's strange, right? Like, it's always interesting when you run back into people from
I know, man.
previous chapters.
Right?
And especially cool when, like, oh shit, they've been through a journey too.
Yeah. You've been through a good one, man.
It's
I
been
think about you every time I see a post or what you're doing, which I know we'll talk about it. I'm so damn excited and for watching you and to see where you are in life. It's amazing. But I always think about the little kid I remember at the what was it, the kickoff classic in Provo, Utah, at our first game with Andy, your brother,
Yeah.
obviously. And you were there, and Andy's your big bro.
Yeah.
And you missed Andy. I forget how old you were.
So I would have been like 8th grade.
Okay. And you were upset, man. Your older brother was like out of the house. You'd grown up, probably. You guys were real close. And you were I just remember seeing you sobbing over there by mom. And I remember like, damn.
So I remember
little
all
brother
that,
misses him.
Like, here's
Do you?
Yeah, I remember all of that. And so the specifics of that were Andy and I were always close. And prior to that game, you guys were supposed to get like this 2.5 week break after the kickoff classic in Utah, and Andy was going to come home and be around. And then you got your asses kicked by BYU. And they said, we're going back to practice, boys. The 2 weeks is no longer a thing. And like, I didn't find that out until like after the game. Like, I'm still like excited that Andy's coming home and I'm fucking 13.
That's why you lost it.
Yeah. And I was like, this is bullshit.
I love that story in my mind now has full context.
Yeah, right. No, I find that really interesting now, getting to revisit things with people and realize, they're not in your head. And so they don't perceive this situation in any of the context that you do. So and how much that shapes the reality of that situation. Dude, I've been looking forward to chat for a while. Just congrats. It's an interesting life. Going from shit, man, out of college. I mean, your move was kind of going into broadcast, right?
I thought it might be. I think a lot of people thought that about me just because of what I did through college with radio and stuff like that. I never really saw that as the path. I don't know if I knew where I would be. I knew communication would be a big part of what I would do. But I did have an entrepreneurial bug. I just did. And so I never saw myself being like a sideline guy for ESPN. Like a lot of people were like, "Oh, you should do that." I'm like, I don't know the game well enough. As long as I played it, I'm not I'm not a super sophisticated Mensa when it comes to the sport of football, which is strange. As long as I played it, but
you have a PhD in doing one position. There's a very different job between that and like GMing or being able to say what a
for real
defensive back's doing. I don't have any fucking clue.
It's like It's so funny though. I haven't talked to Andy about this or anyone else, but people probably assume they do with me. Like, oh, can you give me like an offensive defensive strategy for how would you pick up? I'm like, I don't know.
Andy ended up coaching for his kids for Lyndon and Peyton for a bit, right?
Yeah.
And he said he learned way more football there than he did play. Dude. Because 100%. I mean, again, it's focus, right? Like you're working on being a tackle your entire life. Like I don't need to learn how to play running back.
Yep. Same. I'm coaching I got, 2 boys now. They're 8 and 10 coaching their flag football teams. Same exact thing. I love it. But I'm like, it's fun because I'm like learning a whole different side of the game that I never had to. Yeah. It's great.
Yeah.
But it's been awesome. But no, I never saw myself going down the route of like calling games or doing that kind of stuff. I definitely had the entrepreneurial bug, and I didn't know when it would hit me. I just knew that, when I was done playing, I needed to kind of just figure out my lane. I wanted to avoid this wilderness period that everybody had kind of warned us about when the lights go out.
When the identity have to switch.
For real, right? I'm the what I've done my whole life and what everyone's told me I've been the best at. I was just told 5 minutes ago that I'm being fired because I'm not good enough to do it anymore, and now I've
Oh,
got to start a job that no longer takes advantage of my skills that I feel like I'm the best at. Like, what the hell do I do?
yeah.
You went through it.
Yeah, yeah. It was there was different parts of it I was prepared for and not prepared for. Like because I got to do the college track and field thing and then later found the
Yep.
Highland Games. Like I'm already kind of in on the joke, right? Because at least college track and field, no one gives a shit. It's not the same as playing college football. Like we don't have 100,000 people showing up and doing that for track meets. Like we're aware that like whatever this is cool enough that it pays for school and as a sport, way more fun than doing football. I'm out there in a
Yeah.
t-shirt and shorts every day, drinking water and throwing stuff, listening to music. Throwing's pretty mellow.
Yeah.
And so like I knew that chapters end, right? That like when that ended, there was that, okay, I'm not an athlete, like I'm not a collegiate athlete anymore, whatever that means. And then when I
Yep.
found strongman and powerlifting, like reignited this thing. But I was also kind of in on the joke of being used to doing a sport and caring about something that no one else thinks is neat. And so
Yep.
Highland Games was great. Like I got to be super great at it. And then when I got hurt, and it really wasn't a catastrophic injury. It was I finished the 2016 season second best in the world and went in for an ACL and just didn't go well. 8 surgeries later, I got a total knee replacement.
Dude.
And it didn't end the
Ugh.
way you want it to, right? Like I didn't leave my fucking cleats out there and have this moment. It was like, oh shit, I didn't know that
Yeah.
was the last one. And
Yeah.
so
It just
it was
stopped.
that death being one thing, but the other was I'd gotten to a point where like 200 yards more than that at walking at a time was bad. And like I'm
Yeah.
traveling with a cane. And so, man, the identity of not being athletic was way harder than the not being like a Highland game guy or track and field guy. Cause
Yep.
dude, as an athlete and especially gifted athletes, man, this thing's done anything I've ever asked it to do.
Mm.
Incredibly. And I look at where that built all my confidence. It built my self-awareness, my ability to delay gratification, my ability to focus on all these other aspects. And now the tool's gone. And so kind of the empathy was like, oh man, growing up without this body, I'm not me. Like I got real lucky that this thing operates the way it does.
That's amazing, man. And I couldn't agree more. The idea that athletes live in this bubble that you're in, it's all you know, it's all you're celebrated for, it's what you think people associate your identity with, and you build and build and build, and all you want to do is do it for the rest of your life. And of course, when you're in the middle of it and you're cranking and you're awesome, you feel like you are going to do it for the rest of your life, so
Yeah.
you almost deprioritize what everyone else tells you should be the most important. Of course, you're not, college. You're not doing internships. You're training. You're focused. Everything you have goes into this sport, and then it's over. And then what the hell do you do? I mean, we know all the stats. Like it's wild. I often thought, one of the books I want to write someday is going to be titled "When the Lights Go Out."
Yeah.
Because that is what happens, right? And it's over. And now you're, for the most part, under the age of 30, unless you're doing other things. But 99% aren't going to make it to 35 for
Right.
sure.
What
I mean, it's just
two and a
you're just
half,
not.
3 years is still
That's it. That's it.
and that's if
And
you made it to the NFL.
oh yeah, man.
And even
Like
killing that
most,
dream at 20 at college
no
it's
doubt,
life changing.
life changing. And the idea that you made it, the expectations and what you think you're going to see when you get there is totally different than what it is. I had the prototypical average career, like right at 3 years, bounced around with a bunch of teams, made it, had some good, had some bad, like trying to get here, trying to get there. It was an incredible experience, but it was over. And I wanted, at the time it was over, I was healthy. So I didn't come out of it with an injury. I just got cut, came back to Dallas. And I remember calling my dad and I said, it's over. I think I'm ready to finish and I'm going to go find a new job. Like, what do you think I should do?
What do you think I should do? Yeah, yeah, it's fucking crazy.
It is crazy. And so my dad, of course, my dad knew me and knows me better than anybody. And he grew up in a crazy corporate business environment. He started when he was 16 as a bellboy at a Howard Johnson. 40 years later was president and CEO of Howard Johnson worldwide and Super 8 worldwide, like these major hotel chains. And he just rode this like corporate track. And so very wise. Like if I had to put one word on my dad, it'd be wise, right? And so when I'm asking him, "Hey, I'm done with football. What do I do?" He knew me, he knew my personality, he knew I could talk. He also knew I did not want to kind of go the broadcasting route. And he just said, "You need a job in sales, and you need to make sure it's 100% commission. And go out there and find a job where you can eat what you kill." And I said, "Okay." And I'd worked in radio all through my college
Yeah, doing
life.
telemarketing. I remember you and Andy.
Yeah, right. Andy
Very
did right,
yeah.
exactly. We and I had friends that were selling for the station, and they were making good money, and that was in college. And so I said, "All right, I'll find a place in Dallas." So networked, found a gig, got a job, called my dad again. "Hey, I got the sales job, 100% commission. Like, what do I do to be successful?" And then it was a question back to me. "What did you do to be successful in football?" That was his question. And then I started saying a lot of the things you just said, Matt. And
Right.
that was the tipping point of what would become the trajectory of the way in which I would operate in business. He said, when I answered that question by saying dedication, discipline, the desire to be the best, perseverance, performing under pressure, handling adversity, handling a loss, reacting to coaching, working within a multicultural team dynamic, communication. I mean, every single thing that we did to be successful as athletes are the number one most in demand set of skills in the workplace. And
Right.
that's not my opinion either. That's
No, it's
actually
facts.
PwC did a survey about this with CEOs in the United States. It's like close to 80% say that the biggest threat to businesses in the United States is not a lack of knowing what buttons to push on a job. It's a lack of leadership skills, all those skills I just said. And so I applied that from the jump, had crazy success, was able to start a business in Dallas, Fort Worth that did well. That afforded me the opportunity to get some recognition, which brought me to New York. And that's where we just kind of started, running into the business building game. And it's been a blast. And now,
Now,
fortunately, back home.
where in that process does like getting on The Apprentice fall? Because
Yeah.
like that whole thing, right? Like I know well enough at this point, like nothing happens for accident. Like everything is pursued, especially
Yep.
that stuff.
Yeah. So it was in the middle of the most difficult emotional time I was going through. You may or may not remember, I got married to a college girlfriend coming out of
Okay.
college. We were together through kind of my, ups and downs through the NFL, came back to Dallas. And that relationship, when I got kind of pointed into work, right? I was working during the week. She was in real estate and was working on the weekends. And dude, we were just doing
You've never
this.
saw each other.
Like it was great. Like we were, 24, 20, whatever, 24
Your kids.
and total babies
Your kids.
thinking, all right, we're indestructible. Nothing's going to happen to our marriage. We're just trying to so we just did this, dude.
Yep.
And I remember coming home one day, she had left. It was this crazy thing. My brother literally came to pick me up. He brought me to his apartment the day it all went down because I couldn't stay at home. I was really
Yep.
she was gone. I was a wreck, man. And he brought me to his apartment, and they were in the process of moving. Now, at this point, business wise, I had been crushing it in my sales job. I think I was like the first to break all these records, rookie of the year. Like I was doing really, really well.
Oh yeah.
And I also was able to, on the side, to start a residential real estate company in Dallas Fort Worth that was picking up some traction. So
So
that's kind
short
of like
term, mid
professionally where I
term, long
was.
term, or this would be way prior to Airbnb. This is
Way. It was prior to Airbnb, prior to Zillow and Realtor.com, and I
so
wasn't
this is like
buying
mid two
and selling.
thousands.
Yeah, right. It
Yeah,
was like 2004.
right.
Um, I was working in the uh, in sort of the distressed markets where I could come in and create a trust for a homeowner and be able to move property through a trust and then find investors to help support it. So I was never acquiring real estate, but I was using the legal system that allowed us to kind of show how real estate could be cared for and making fees in the process. It was great. And I was
Yeah.
cranking. And so I'm at my brother's apartment, boxes everywhere because he's moving. I sleep on like an air mattress. I wake up the next morning and I'm fumbling through the kitchen to get a cup of coffee. And on top of one of the boxes was a pile of papers that was turned upside down, but I could just see the corner of the NBC Universal logo, like the peacock logo from NBC.
Yeah.
And my sister-in-law, who obviously lived in this place, used to work for NBC. And I thought, oh, maybe this is for her. And I kind of slid the paper aside, snooping a little bit.
Yeah, sure.
And it said at the top, application for NBC's hit reality show, The Apprentice.
Oh,
And it was
hell.
about how they're coming to Fort Worth for a casting call. And I was looking at it. My brother came in the kitchen and he saw me looking at it. And I looked at him and I go, what's this? And he said, oh, Crystal, that's his wife. He said, Crystal printed that out. She thought it'd be fun if I went down and tried. My brother was also in the entrepreneurial world. So we should go to the tryouts, go to the casting call. He said, do you want to go? So I said, yeah. So we went, picked up a suit at my house, drove to Fort Worth. It was pouring rain. There was like
Man, what an
5,000 people
easy
standing in
no
line,
that would have been to say.
right?
Fuck.
Right.
All right. Yeah.
Dude, yeah, I thought about that a lot. And we waited in line, and I went in and I just said, my name's Chris, former athlete turned entrepreneur, and here's what I'm doing. And, of course, I knew what I was walking into. So I was a little animated and
Sure.
charismatic
Of
and
course.
kind of
Yeah. Yeah.
pouring it
Yeah.
on a little bit. And
Yeah. You're a sales guy.
got called back. Yeah. Got called back for the next gig, got called for the next one. Then I had to do a video that was like my application video. I did that. And then 50 people got called to LA. And that's where we met Trump for the first time. And he was the one that selected the final 18. But, they said, all right, your interview's at 10:30. And I was like, my interview? And they go, yeah, Mr. Trump's going to be interviewing each candidate. And I was like, all right,
Fucking wild. How the
yeah.
fuck am I in
So,
this room?
right, exactly. So I walk in, I sit down, and he just stares at me. And the first question out of his mouth was, what do you bench? I was like, what do I bench? Are you serious? I was like, not enough, or I'd probably still be playing in the NFL.
Right.
It was like I was, and the whole conversation was literally about the mindset of an athlete and how it applies to business. The whole
Yeah.
conversation, it was unbelievable. And I'll come back to that point in a bit because of what he has done for me since that show got off, because it's been ridiculous. But yeah, man, he picked it, and then next thing I know, I'm moving to New York City. It was just like
By,
that. And
by that point, I mean, it's weird to say in a comparison, right? But is that the most high level famous person you had met at that point? Because man, Donald Trump's a different level of thing. And granted, he's not there what he is now.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know if I thought about it that I probably thought about it, oh, this TV star and business guy, and he has a lot of mystique, which I totally did. I had him, but I think it helped that I was around, like Eddie George and
Yeah, sure.
like crazy NFL celebrities that I think just being kind of in the locker room, and not like I'm boys with them at all, but I was
I guess
sort
let
of
me
ecosystem.
retarget this to best more what I'm looking at. Man, I've been lucky enough to get to share some space with some phenomenal guys that operate, whether it's business or it's speakers or any of that, whether Ed Milet or any of these other guys. And I'm aware at what level of charisma and connection those guys form when they talk to people.
Yep.
And meeting people at different levels of it. Like I'm aware I have some of it, but like I can see the spectrum of what greatness looks like at people who master that ability.
Mm-hmm.
And anyone I've ever met who wants to piss and moan about presidential candidates, I'm like, if you had dinner with him, they own you. Either side of the
100%, man.
table, either side of the political party. Like if anyone out there, for the most part, who wants to complain about the current president or piss and moan about Trump, if you're in a room with 15 people and that guy walked in, you'd leave and be like, pretty good.
Yeah.
Like
And you
they're
wouldn't even
animals.
know. Yeah, exactly. And you wouldn't even know what happened to yourself. You don't
No,
even know what's happening
it's
while it's
so
happening.
incredible to see
If
people
they're
who
good.
have that thing and just go,
Yeah,
holy
man.
shit.
Do you know what that thing is though, Matt? You have it. That thing is authenticity. It truly is. I believe 1,000,000% that we are attracted most to people who are most authentic. Now, I know in the context of the person we were just talking about, there could be all kinds of discussions about authenticity, but his authenticity came with this pointed message politically that said, I'm going to be authentic to the United States and I'm going to be this bullish, hardcore, and it resonated, right? And obviously a lot of things around it that created this, mystique of Trump.
I mean,
But
people see
that
themselves a
aside,
lot more in Trump than they see themselves in the lifetime political guy, which is a really
exactly right.
great and fantastic marketing campaign from a guy who's been a millionaire his entire life. It's
It's
phenomenal for me
brilliant.
to see that connection work. It's incredible.
It's brilliant, man. It's brilliant. I realized, I think around like after I moved to New York and I jumped into like the entrepreneurial sort of scene and I was around, in New York City, you walk around the corner and you'll bump into somebody that's worth 10 million bucks.
Right.
And then you walk around the next corner and you hit somebody that's 100. And then you go around the next one and it's billionaire. I mean, the mentality there is insanely aggressive around status and stature and like who you are and what you have. And I've always loved the pursuit of being really great at something. Like that's been fun.
Right.
And you've certainly any accolades and rewards that come along with it is great. But there's a transition point where the ego strength that you have, which is obviously your ability to project supreme confidence and charisma while not making people feel like the only person in the world that matters is me.
Yeah.
It's everyone else is the ones that matter the most. Like that's ego strength. There's a point in New York City where ego strength tips into ego drive, where the only thing that matters is people pointing at me and telling me how great I am and all that great stuff.
It's just validation.
Dude, you see this push and pull with ego strength, ego drive in New York. And I became keenly aware to that truth early. And because of that, I was able to play with it and adapt it because I knew I never wanted to become this ego-driven maniac, but I absolutely am a confident, charismatic, try to be louder than life person in areas that I'm passionate about, faith, family, fun. Like there's things that I'm really leadership that I'm super passionate about that I'll go to the hill on, but I want to try to project the spotlight on someone else in that process.
Right.
And not, it isn't about me. It's about serving you. And in New York, there's this like all the time. And I realized that quickly. And it was a big benefit because I could use it to my advantage in how I pursued growth. But like, that's when I realized like the potential I could have in using my skill sets in communication and developing relationships and leading people and what I've been able to do in my career, the ability to sharpen those skills in a place like New York is uncanny because you're just
like
in the lion's den.
College. I mean, right. Like what a educational environment to enter into for the person. If you go into it with simply the purpose of adaptation, right? Kind of recently, one of those things I think about, right, is, I mean, what if I really look at what all we learned from the athletic side? Like any adaptation I want has to come from stress. Like my muscles grow and adapt just due to stressing them out. They don't do it hanging out on the couch. like our body and full genetic potential, if you will, or greatness, we'll call it. Why would it expose ourselves if it's never going to be needed? And so it's us to find it, right? Like, why would our immune system take care of itself if we're never exposed to sickness? Why would, our heart rate be able to manage 180 if we're never going to spend time with our heart rate up? Like, all those adaptations have to come the same way. And I look at that not just from the physical, but also from my ability to manage stress. I'm not looking for a stressless life. Stress is the opportunity that tests me to see if I got what it takes to hold on to what it's trying to give me. And lucky enough, we live in this incredible time that of 300,000 years that humans have been around, I get to choose the stress I want to adapt to. There's no percentage of people ever who've gotten this abundance that we have. And so, like,
it's a great way to look at it. Choose the stress that you want to be exposed to is an awesome.
And so if I was going to try to create not the greatest football player, but greatest entrepreneur, should I spend some time working in New York? Probably.
Yeah, 100%.
You know what I mean? And so
I love that.
I
Matt,
look
did you, because you truly are one of the few, like, take this with respect, coming from a guy that weighed as much as you weighed. What was your peak weight?
318.
I got you beat.
Yeah, you and Andy. I know Andy got up like 340-ish during strongman.
No way. I did not know that. Are you serious?
Strongman is such a sport that if you want to get big and strong, like it just gives back. Because like the last contest I did, right, like was a 360 farmer's carry, like per hand. And so weighing 318 is really nice.
I bet. Yeah, I had no idea about Andy. That's crazy. Mine was 327, but
yeah.
I'm about 247 now. I got to lose some. But what I love about you, you look unbelievable, man.
Thank you, man.
Unbelievable. The idea that you went from being the fat guy to like the lean like machine that you are now. Let me rephrase that. The fat strong guy.
Sure.
I don't want to offend. I don't want to offend you. You know what I mean? But that is remarkable, man. Like I talk a lot about you. I mentioned that I showed your video in our board meeting the other day about not dead yet. And I know what I know because of what I've seen come out of you. You and I haven't talked in so many years. Yeah. I know that you've had the physical challenges. I certainly know you've had the emotional challenges. Yeah. And I know that you've gone through the fire. And like you're over here just ripping life physically, mentally, emotionally. And I'm sure there's like, I'm sure you've got the shit just like everyone else has, right? Like everybody deals with it. But I think you've just got the filter upon which you decide to look at that. And you're making decisions constantly on your attitude towards those things. And I just want to tell you that it's remarkably inspiring to be around, because I my battle is I'm constantly thinking about ways to sharpen my own saw, but I think I treat the physical side of things with less importance as the mental and emotional side. And so this is why you're so important to so many people, that you're giving people sort of the levers that need to be pulled to start to make these shifts. It's obviously there's people that do it and they're really good at it. You're one of them. Tony Robbins is one of them. Like, right. And so I'm tapped. I love all of that stuff, and I've been in it for so long. I think what you deliver that's unique though is a direct connection of kind of all of that mental stuff to the physical.
Well, which I really think
that's the most important thing.
So few people ever become fluent in physical practice. It's one thing that like, hey, I know I need to go to the gym, and it's another to be like, oh, I can train for progress in a thing. And then it's another to like, oh, I can always set up training to maximize what I want. And so in the same way that, we put together training programs for sports, right? To football and Highland Games or track and field, right? The gym it's important, but it's to help me do a thing better, right? Like, it's not like I'm just becoming a bodybuilder or even powerlifting or weightlifting where the actual weight matters. So this is all general physical preparedness to do a sport. And so now that I don't have a sport, if I'm interested in being the best version of me, what would my training protocol look like to create that? And so I kind of simplify it a lot into zone 2 cardio is really simple. And I know that it reduces like all life mortality by 60%. So that's a really easy fucking button that I can push every day in 40 minutes or 30 minutes. You know, that the
write
sauna,
that one down.
yeah, using the sauna.
Yeah.
I use the sauna every day.
That's why I reached out to you about it.
Yeah. I use the sauna every day. All the studies and nerdery show like what helpful it is. But what I like about it is every day I've got a moment where I can touch this line of, I'm really uncomfortable and I want out of here. Like I can get hot enough to get that battle in my head to where like I can't think of anything else other than we should get out of the sauna. And so like at that point, being able to go to breath work and being able to focus and be like, we're fine. That red flag.
Do you speak about yourself as a we?
Yeah. In a lot of instances. And the we is really, there's some disconnect between me and the machine.
Yeah. Cause I guess the machine or the head needs to pull the body along with it sometimes. Right? As bad as you feel.
That the sauna gives me a chance to practice that as a choice of like, I'm used to hearing those red flags in my head that say, we can't do any more than this. And I'm very aware that realizing those show up way earlier than they need to. There's a point when you should listen, but like the first flag that pops up, you're at like 40% tops. And that's where most people pull the plug.
Amazing, man.
Same with the cold, right? Like same, just using those hacks to my advantage. And, you know, they really help with, you know, becoming back present. And I think that's part of the physical thing that helps is, you know, getting out of breath and getting back present instead of how fast this can get spun up on whatever the task is that I'm obsessed with.
It's funny. My brother and I were having a conversation the other day. He's now owns a few car dealerships, a couple BMW dealerships. He's doing great. And he said the first time in his life, this was like a year ago, one of his employees he hadn't seen in a while came up to him, and they'd been friends for a long time. And my brother's name is John. And this employee came up to him and was like, "Oh, John, how you doing, man? Whoa, you got fat." And my brother said he's always been lean, always been sharp, you know, first time in his life anyone had ever called him fat. I was like, welcome to the club, dude. I mean, you know, this is like, so, but it kicked him in the ass. And we were talking about his determination in the first just like month at the gym where he started CrossFit. And he literally said, he goes, the only thing I focused on was making sure that 5 days a week, my 2 feet were standing in that gym. That is literally the only thing. He was.
You want to stand there and not train? That's fine, but we're going to be in that room.
Exactly right. Yeah. He just was like, I am going to stand physically in that location. Something is going to get done every day. I don't know what it's going to be, but I'm just going to go. And that's kind of how he approached it. And it just like anything,
but
right?
It works.
Momentum.
Like at the end of the day, like I don't care what you want to get better at. It's consistency can't be beaten.
No doubt.
No doubt. You said something earlier, right? Like when you started kind of going into this like self-development, like really leaning into it. And you were talking about how people get caught up in the, I guess, let's just call it acquiring wealth, acquiring status.
Yeah.
That's the game they're playing. And it's really driven by what people's opinion. It's even weirder, right? Because it's driven by what you believe other people's opinion is of you. And that's what most people are driven by. And the hack there is realizing that no one's thinking about you. No one gives a shit. They're focused about what everyone's thinking about them.
Yep.
And so
that's right.
When you started going into that, do you think because you had the death of an identity already once with the NFL, right? That like you knew with your football career, like there's so often this, like, I'm trying to reach a destination. The goal will be an NFL player, be a college player. Right. And the destination has zero and dick to do with the fulfillment you get from it.
Yeah.
Because it ends. You're just waiting for it. Like,
Yeah.
this is it, right? Like, we feel like a football player, and we don't ever.
Yeah. Yep. Yep. Yeah. I think for me, certainly the shot to New York was a literal and sort of emotional transition for me as it relates to my focus on kind of like, what do I want?
Yeah.
Right? Like, what is the North Star that I can pursue? Like, and I grew up and with a great family. I think I a great value system. Faith is critically important to me. It had been since high school, and I think I had a good foundation of values and beliefs culturally. But like, what do I want out of that? And I sure as hell knew that pursuing this sort of New York, celebritized life was absolutely
Not it.
not it. But I also knew that I wanted to pursue being excellent. And so like there was this, how do you pursue being excellent without trying to like turn the spotlight on yourself? And it caused me to kind of say, all right, well, what is my excellence? Like, if I had to
How
just
do
like
you define
point
it,
down
right?
to, what is it?
Yeah,
Right?
yeah.
Like, what is that sauce? Everybody's got a sauce. Like, what is mine? And when I figured that out, I figured out where I can use it, both in my day to day, and the company we started with Mission, but then where can I point it to make a real impact in the lives of other people? And that is like going back to Texas A&M. We had a guy there. Andy probably talked about it. You probably met him, but we had a guy there named Dr. Rick Rigsby, who was
Yeah.
he was our life skills coordinator. And I always hung on to, is to this day one of the most impactful speakers I've ever heard in my life. But he always used to tell us a few things. He used to say, like, jealousy in particular. So envy of a person's status or what someone else has, like, that jealousy is the anesthesia that deadens the pain of stupidity. He would tell us that, like, this idea that you want what someone else has is quite literally the anesthesia that is making you numb to how stupid you're being by having that point of view. It's
I
incredible.
really, really like that phrasing of it, because it's the same idea as that, like, comparison's a thief of joy.
Yes.
Yeah, it's the same,
Yes.
same analogy, but yeah, I really love how he's using it as the blinding thing, right? That's what makes us
Absolutely.
blind to our own faults. Is
Right.
instead of looking at someone else's success as proof of concept, I use it as what I don't have.
Right. Right. And then in the same breath, he would say, do you want to be somebody who makes an impact or just an impression? Like, what path do you want? So if you want to make an impact, you can do that by figuring out what makes you great and finding a way to do that for the rest of your life.
Yeah.
Like, that is how you will make an impact. So the struggle then becomes, well, how do you find out what makes you great? And I think that's that sort of pursuit I certainly went through in, I think the year, I went to my first like Tony Robbins event. I think it was 2000 and might have been like
Was that like the
2010 or
first
2011.
style of that event you went to, was just fucking all in at a Tony Robbins one?
Pretty much. Yeah.
Oh
Pretty
man.
much.
All
Yeah.
right.
Yeah. It was
Okay. So
awesome. I
like
did,
going into that, dude, how
yeah,
much are you like, what level of kookery is this shit?
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
Okay,
everyone
cool.
is. I think everybody has that, but I think you quickly realize whatever you think you know about that guy is opposite of what he really is.
Mhm.
His magic is in giving a very clear and articulate reason to make a choice about anything in your life and what to do after you make that choice. And it's very simple. It's like, once you make the choice, there is no going back. burn the boats if you're going to
That's
take the
right.
island. That's his saying. We've all heard that. If we're going to take the island, we got to burn the boats. There is no plan B. It's just plan A. So how are you going to act if you just choose plan A? And so part of it was a self-discovery of like me trying to figure out where can I point my cannons and make the impact I want to make. And the other part was kind of like wanting the mental kick in the ass to go get it done. And so I came out of that, I walked across fire. I did all this stuff. And I thought it was like this weird from the outside looking in before I did it. I thought
Yeah, it
the
absolutely
firewalk thing
is.
was ridiculous. So he never sits up there and says that you're mentally making yourself resistant to fire. He never does any of that
Yeah,
garbage. It's
right.
not horseplay. We all know that you can walk on coals because of just the way
Yeah,
in which the
science.
thermal impact, everybody knows that. It's standing next to an 800-degree inferno and taking the first
And
step
choosing to
onto
live.
it.
Yeah.
That's it, dude. And I was sitting there at the edge of that thing like, no way. Like, there's no way I'm not doing that. And I look to my right and I see like an 80-year-old grandma doing it. And I look to my left and I see like a 14-year-old girl doing it. And I'm like,
Here we go.
wait a second. Like, what in my head is causing me to block? And then you flip the switch, you take a step. Holy crap. It's hot, but I'm good.
I'm
Bang. And you
uncomfortable.
just
I'm not
motor
in
through it.
danger.
Right.
Right. And that's
Right.
same thing I like with the sauna and cold plunge. I want
Yeah.
uncomfortable. I don't want danger. I want to be to decipher those two things and feelings very separately.
Yeah. Yeah. And so there was that. And then, it was awesome. Came out fired up, knowing, my gift is people. It's communicating ideas and stories and telling them in a way that can move people to action, whatever that might be. It could be with our company and the initiatives we're taking on to impact health through heat safety. It could be leadership related initiatives that I've got going on with places like Texas A&M and others. Like, I love leading. I love the principles of leadership. I love business. I love creating things that have never been created. And I have found the ability to do those things through a process of the personality tests and the real life
Yeah.
garbage and the Tonys and the this and the that, and following people like you, literally marinating myself in people that speak about constantly bettering your best. Like, that is how I approached it. It was, show me your friends, I'll show you your future. The things, I tell my
Right.
kids every single day. Well, my friends, my ecosystem, my association with all of these things I chose to be exposed to. I could have chosen other things to be exposed to.
Well, and
I
like,
just didn't.
I'm sure you're familiar. You're familiar with 4 Agreements, the book.
Well,
If
I don't
not,
think I
enjoy.
am.
If not, enjoy. It's
Oh my
great.
gosh.
You will absolutely get it. It takes 2.5 hours. Super simple. And
Nice.
so kind of the first level, first thing it talks about. So the 4 agreements are 4 agreements to live by are: don't take anything personal, be impeccable with your word, don't make assumptions, always do your best. Simple.
Love it.
And so the very first
Love it.
chapter of the book is talking about this idea, this dream of the world and domestication, and talking about some kookery vocabulary mixed in there. But really what it's getting at, right, is like our base selves are formed by the environment we were dropped into, the place, the community we were born around, what my parents' view of religion was, what my parents' view of entrepreneurship is. Like, all of that informs the base version of me. And at some point, if I can make it, understand the agreement that a lot of who I think I am was simply just shaped by my experience toward those things that I didn't pick. What if I was really conscious and intentional about now picking all the things that I want to be shaped by for the next 10 years? And if that means the environment they need to get in, that means I need to find people who are doing the thing that I'm interested in. You have to. It doesn't work any other way. Like, everyone has that feeling about like, oh, my hometown and the people aren't doing it or whatever it is. It's like, yo, you're supposed to move on. Don't worry about them. Love
Yeah.
them, they find it either way or not. It doesn't have anything to do with you. Make a move and go.
Yeah.
Find your new people,
Yeah.
find your new tribe, find the people that you want to learn from. I mean, dude, all my kind of clicking on came when dad died, was kind of the start of it. And it was, the first real awareness was just that, he died at 62, the day before I turned 31, and took that as halfway, man, halfway through the ride. And at that point, like, I'm doing outside sales in the oil and gas industry, and it's a good job. I make good money, but like, I don't care about it. But like, I have the Highland Games thing, right? So like, I have the passion thing going.
Yep.
And then when he passed, like, it just got really loud of like, if you're halfway, what are we doing? And what do I really want from my life? And what it came down to is, I want to spend as much of the rest of my life doing the things that I love, not working out of obligation, not feeling forced and reactionary, but being intentional with as much of my time as possible. And that's developed over the years since then. But that was really that first moment of, oh man, I'm like, for sure we're going to die. Like, that was that first real moment of it. And, with the way pancreatic cancer works, like, that's an option. Like, no matter how I stack the cards in my favor, and my dad didn't stack them great in his, there's a chance that you go out that way. And if that's true, then the ride's got to be worth it. And
It's
so
unbelievable, man.
I'm on the gas to be on the side of the ride being worth it.
Yeah.
Um,
It's remarkable. I got to tell you, man, um, there's a story I've been thinking about with your dad. And obviously Andy and I were teammates, roommates.
yeah.
Um, and your dad was always somebody that first of all, I loved the relationship he had with you guys, because he wasn't dad, he was pops.
Yep.
And Pop was like, that was like the first part when I met you guys. Because I don't think up to that point, I'd even seen a person from Louisiana, let alone like
That's fair.
roommate with him, right? Andy's like, "You want an alligator ball?" I'm like, "A what, dude? Like you eat alligator here too? Is that really what you do?" All right, and fantastic, by the way. But like, no, the culture of grit in Louisiana is kind of what I'm getting at. And you and your dad and Andy, that was always just something I felt like personified the Vincents. And there was a cool relationship. But anyway, the story was, we were in the dorm one night, and one of the guys, to be nameless, Andy will know who it is. One of the guys came in drunk, just raising hell. It was late, and got up into Andy's face and did something, and Andy just popped him.
Yeah.
Just popped him. Like, nice, easy right hook. Like, it was perfect.
Such is life, man.
guy went to sleep in his bed, slept it off. Andy was worried.
Yeah.
Because he just laid somebody out. He's trying to make a team and he doesn't want to get in trouble.
Oh,
And
man, I can imagine the panic in my brother.
Yeah, he was freaking out. And I think I knew Andy well enough to know that, like, the guy who I still to this day, when I think about Andy, I think of calm, cool, collected, like just a determined, like, serious dude that can work, and somebody that will, like, would hold your rope anytime you ask him to, man. Like, Andy's just an awesome guy. But he was shitting himself in that session. Like, I could tell.
Oh,
And so
man,
he picked up the phone and he called your dad, and your dad was asleep. It must have been 1, 2 in the morning. I don't know what time it was, but
fuck. So, all
your
right,
dad was
we're already
asleep.
waking him up. So now it's an emergency. This is going great.
Yeah. Andy woke him up, and they talked. He just said, "Hey, Pop, you got to wake up. Everything's okay. I just got to tell you what just happened, and I'm not sure what to do." And they spent 15, 20 minutes. Andy hung up the phone and he went to sleep, man. He went to sleep. And I always just remembered, because I knew your dad, I knew
Mhm.
who Andy was talking to. So I had a context of kind of just the style of your dad and kind of how he probably handled it. And I would have to say it would probably be very similar to the way my dad would have handled it. Give me the details of the situation.
Yep.
Tell me exactly what happened. Let me help you navigate through this. Let me not get emotional about
Right.
what's occurring in your life. Let me be the one right now that's going to give you the black and white. I'm not going to give you the green and the yellow and the blue.
Yeah, which is interesting because historically, what I learned with dad was the first outburst will be the emotional one, which really we don't need to value at all. We just need to get that one out of the way so we can talk in another 10 minutes. I fucking said it to him one time, like in my 20s. And I was like, hey, man, I need to talk. And if we could skip over the next 45 minutes of you being shitty about this and just get to a solution, that would be really helpful. And as soon as I told him, he spouted off and I hung up the phone. And then he called me back and he's like, I just realized what you said beforehand. I'm like, did you?
Oh man. But I just, anyway, I've always, the news of your dad came late to me. And real late, dude. Like I was out of touch with Andy for a long time.
Yeah.
And I literally went up to Andy one day. We saw each other at the game. I was like, how's your mom and dad? And that's when Andy had to tell me. That's how I found out.
Yeah.
And I literally that night, I was a wreck. The whole day, I just felt like, how in the world have I been so distant? That was a turning point for me, just relationships. Like
That's tough, right?
I've always cared about Andy and Dia and the kid. Like they're to this day, Andy's constantly in my mind. I always think about him. I'll pray for him and the family. Just he had a major influence on my life. He wrote me the most amazing letter when I went off into the NFL. That was such like a leadership driven text. He fed into me for a long time. And I just remember feeling like, oh my gosh, how in the world did that skip past me? That is awful.
You
And
know, that,
it was crazy.
coming back to that agreement of don't take things personal, right? And like one of those I've
Yeah.
had with me is, through this next chapter of life where I've started trying to really find the people I want to be influenced by and surround myself with them and be part of a community and be valued in X, Y, and Z, that any high performers I've met in any field, there's a certain level of blinders that have to go on. And like, and it's just true. It's not done out of malicious intent, right? Like it's not exclusionary. And it's one of those things that I've always looked at with any of those friends that whenever we interact, we're right back to where we were.
Yeah.
But it's because we're all doing this, trying to fly as fast as we can at our own thing.
Yeah.
And it takes a ton. It takes a ton of focus to accomplish it. Like the world wants to distract you as much as humanly possible.
Yeah, it really does. But the world also wants in that world of distraction, the world wants authentic, real people like you to come and slap him upside the head and say, listen, it's cool if you want to go and chase after all this stuff but make sure you're living the life you deserve and want and are striving to live. Like stop being miserable. You can make choices.
But
Because
not
when
only
you
that,
made the choice to
misery is
leave
your
the sales
choice.
job.
Yeah, the misery is your choice too.
Yeah.
Right? Like
exactly right.
I mean, at the end of the day, like if I really take the agreement of like total accountability in my life, that means I'm only ever doing things I choose. I don't have to do anything. No one physically is dragging me out of this room to go to a thing. And so if that's the case and I don't have to attend stuff, then that means I'm there by choice. And if I'm there by choice, why don't we be present and give it our best?
So Matt, curious about Not Dead Yet.
Yeah.
If you're summarizing the brand in a sentence, what are you telling people?
It's for the living.
It's for the living.
Yeah, man. It's for those concerned about the time in front of them more than the time behind them.
Yeah,
And
man.
none of that has anything to do with tomorrow.
That is the reason I showed your video in our board meeting, because I said, you're familiar with Simon Sinek, right? Simon Sinek is amazing. If you have, obviously, if you haven't read the book, start with why, or at least watch the 12-minute TED Talk. You're crazy. That's like almost like a mandatory. But the whole idea of people people don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it, right? That's Simon Sinek's platform. I was talking to our team about, why do we do what we do? Why are we a business? Why do we matter? What are we delivering to people? What do we want people to believe about us, and why does it matter ultimately? And I painted this picture about Mission's a brand that works in, we sell cooling products, and it's this idea that the heat is a real threat. It's a threat to the environment. It's a threat to the economy. It's a threat to your health. It's a threat to everybody. And that we can make things that can improve health outcomes and performance in the heat. You're an athlete, you get hot, your performance declines. If you can stay cooler longer, your performance improves.
The faster we transition, performance improves. Yeah, absolutely.
That's it, right? So, but ultimately, why are we doing it? So I was painting this picture about the threat of heat isn't now, and the threat of heat long term, and what that's going to do to a world that wants to be healthy but doesn't know how. Or what is it doing to a world that is already unhealthy, and the heat's going to prevent them from doing anything more outside because they can't do it? How are we, what is our reason for being? And I showed your video. And I said, our why has to be associated with something like this. It has to be for the living, because there's a lot of life to live, and there's a lot of doing that needs to get done, and the heat will get in the way. And if we focus on the life you want to live and the doing that needs to get done, if that is how we structurally approach talking to people, that authenticity can carry through.
I mean, because you're selling, what you're selling isn't any different, right? You're selling performance enhancement. You're selling, more time to do the thing you love for people who are already choosing to do that. This makes it easier to follow your passion. This, gives you more time to spend in the sun. I can't eliminate the sun. The next best thing I can do is make the sun less of a factor.
That's it. We're not, we don't do climate change.
Chemicals into our skin. We can do it without.
Exactly right.
It's it, man. Reduce exposure.
It's literally, it's like we always say, we're not in the climate change business. We're in the climate adaptation business.
Yeah.
The work's got to still go. The doing still got to get done. The life still needs to be lived. And don't let this element get in the way. We can enable that. And it's a different message. And that is the reason why I showed you, is because I said, this is the kind of person that personifies the life worth living and the doing that needs to get done. Somebody who has been through the stuff.
Yeah.
Life has kicked them in the face, just like it has for the 7 billion people on this planet. Everybody's had it to one degree or another. And
everyone's,
but this is a person who refuses to stay on.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly right. But it's that, and that kind of is back to the very first thing we talked about, really, is this authenticity and what the impact you're trying to have, and that's real. It's like we started this leadership program at A&M, and we wanted to show student athletes how their instinctual skills on the field are the same skills in business. So we started a business leadership program at A&M. It's the first in the country that's ever done it.
I can't believe that.
Yeah, it's well, a lot of universities try.
Correlation. Okay.
They try, but there's no one that's done anything even remotely close to that one. But that's okay. That's good. We want everybody to do it.
Yeah, great.
But the whole idea that the whole idea that we're going to teach athletes how their skills work in business would not work if I didn't have an athlete in that business talking to the athlete that's going to eventually be in that business. It's this authenticity and communication. I want a Highlands Games guy who's now an influencer to talk to me as a college shot putter about how to use an influencer strategy in my, direct to consumer, marketing.
Yeah. And I mean, it's been interesting what doors it's opened, right? Because now, in October, that's 10 years I've had the brand.
Amazing.
And
Amazing.
man, it's been incredible. I can't believe any of this has worked out, from throwing rocks in a field. And what other opportunities it's opened for us, because we leaned into content creation and storytelling and everything else. And so what that's allowed for us to build, and deciding to do the rebrand and the name change and all that, like, it was just time.
Which was
And
really well done, by the way.
thank you.
Very well
Thank
done.
you. It felt
Your
right to just get
transition was
everything
great.
under one umbrella. And so now
Yep.
looking at it as like, now's job to re-educate. That's us to get in there. It's not our audience's job to play along. It's
Yep.
for us. We've got to re-educate and show them that we're still who we say we are.
Do you find that you're ahead of the game? Do you feel like you're ahead of the game with content in terms of your approach to it?
No.
Behind the game? Like where you should be?
I feel like I'm in the game, and I'm in the game
Yeah.
enough that I'm paying attention to try to be intentional with my content. Right. So right now, where it comes with companies, especially like what we're doing with a small team, like, it's me and Branch are the only guys here in St. Louis, who's my video editor, videographer, kind of creative partner.
Yeah.
And then I've got my warehouse team and screen print shop. And I've got some graphic designers that work freelance for me, or work remote. I wouldn't say freelance. But it's Brant and I. And so it's us needing to figure out what story do we want to tell. And then, okay, so if we shoot this 5-minute piece, why don't we break that up into 20 pieces of content? And then that allows us to A/B test from there. Like, okay, people are liking us talking about community. They're also liking us talking about this. We're seeing that a camera angle that looks like a fake podcast works. We're seeing a camera angle that looks more third person of a candid conversation works. And so it's just trying to figure out the mechanism based on the data they're giving me to sharpen the direction we want to go, or decide I don't care and I want to make what I want to make. I just can't have both. I can make what I want to make. I just can't be like, this should be getting better. Like it.
Yeah.
You can't have both.
Are you think, well, so and this is great because I'm curious now because I can learn a lot from you, but and I don't mean to.
We're interestingly running very different sized boats. Yours is complicated in so many more areas than mine is.
Well, yes, but your content creation is light years ahead of mine, which is when I say light years, it's truly what I believe is the future of transactions with consumers, is the ability for consumers to understand that I need to know who I am buying from and what they stand for before I just buy. Now, just buy crowd will still be there.
It's not like we have any amazing technology in our t-shirts. It's a t-shirt.
No.
Right? And so the totem,
I get it.
For us, right? It's a totem. Like, this is that reminder that when I put it on, today matters. And like getting people to feel that. And what we both know more important than anything else about reaching this audience is back to what you're talking about, authentic. And like what that really boils down to is, it's not important for me to have you believe what I believe. What's really important is that I believe it. And all my actions back it up. And I have this big bank of evidence that says he's about that.
Yeah.
And that's the best part. Can't be faked.
It cannot be faked. And I think, and that's the bullseye upon which I believe the future of our kind of business is being done. Like you talked about, you just make a t-shirt. The rule in apparel, like in the retail world, like selling to retailers and whatnot, when a consumer's walking up to the pad and they've got 500 different t-shirts to look at, right? Like how do you get them to look at yours? And there's sort of a rule of three. It's love at first sight. So physically, when I look across the way, the color, the design, like it catches me. Like I want to walk up to it. So love at first sight, love at first touch. What does it feel like? Is it comfortable? And love at first wear. When I put it on, it fits awesome, right? Like those are kind of the three, but it's the before the first one. It's before love at first sight. It's developing that sort of groundswell so that when they do see you for the first time, it triggers this connection to a higher belief that I may not carry, but I follow a guy that does, and I really like what he talks about.
Yeah.
And that connection can be made through a t-shirt. It's crazy when you think about
So,
it. But
man,
that end-to-end connection is what it's all about.
so within the last year or so, like I've been doing some more like keynote speaking and things like that. And man, that's been
Yeah,
really interesting. And every single thing I love about competing, I get from it. Because man, getting ready to go on stage, like no way that everything is just jacked through the roof, and like you're keeping that pot on boil just the best that you can.
it's
And
great,
like
man,
being
right?
able to go up there and manage the tools of like how many times have I performed when it counts? And this is a chance to sharpen that axe. That like I get that we're nervous. I
Absolutely.
get we can breathe. I get we can be present. I get we can connect. I get we can be vulnerable to the audience and say we're nervous. And the speaking thing has become really interesting. And so now being able to watch other speakers like guys like Tony Robbins, and what I realize with whether it's music or whether it's Tony Robbins or whether it's preachers or any of these people, like what it is it's that power, right? Like that's the power that comes when something no longer is a thought and you've generated the energy behind it to push air over your vocal cords and create a resonance and a frequency and then add intention and all your experience to it. And then that's louder and it allows it to create this impact on other people.
Yeah, man. That's one of the things Tony Robbins would say, where focus goes, energy flows.
Of course it does. And that's
It's
why high
right. It's like,
performers have blinders on.
that's it. That's
You
it.
know,
And
that
it's crazy, but that is the essence, I think, of what you've brought to the table. It's been incredible to watch. Like I like candidly, I have every time I watch a post of yours or see what you're doing, I do have like this proud sort of brother kind
you
of
should,
feeling.
man.
I don't
You
know.
should.
It's very cool.
You
Um,
operated a wildly cool influence at like an interesting chapter of my life, man. Because getting a chance
it
to
was
come up
great.
there, so getting a
Yeah.
chance to come spend time with you guys and like hang out in the dorm and play Madden and then being at the house with you guys when y'all were living with Jake, like all of
Yeah.
that, right? Like
Yeah.
shaped such an important part of me. And it was one of those first times that like I really got that feeling of like, oh man, I'm in the cool kids room. I just need to not fuck this up.
Yeah.
Because I'm
Yeah.
a high school kid at these college parties. And like,
Absolutely.
man, I'm just trying to be cool. Like, I'm trying to make sure I'm invited back. Like, that is the only game to be
Great.
played.
That was great, man. I
But yeah,
loved it. I loved it.
wildly informative. And
Well, it's been fun to watch, Matt.
when you
Like
got
it's,
on with when you got
yeah,
on with Mission, was it ground floor or
yeah, yeah. We started it from our apartment building on the Upper East Side of Manhattan,
wow?
and my partner Josh Shaw, actually is the one that had the idea. He said, "Hey, like athletes deal with a lot of problems with their skin, with their body, with a lot of things, and there's really no athlete kind of personal care brand out there." And so we approached the concept with trying to figure out like what problems athletes deal with and what solutions are available to fix them. And we looked at a bunch of different things. Early days, we looked at different skincare products like
Yeah.
sunscreens for athletes that are outside. Tested those and had some success, and then kind of tried some other things that were more unique to certain sports and always focused on athletes. And then we found a fabric technology that had come out of Japan that just when you introduce water to the fabric, it would get cool, and it would just basically
So it just
exploit
evaporates
the
really
evaporative
quickly,
cooling
right? Like,
properties.
okay.
Actually, the opposite. It evaporates more slowly. So you have a prolonged evaporation as opposed to a short burst of evaporation. So evaporation produces cooling.
Mhm.
Cooling is what our bodies do to cool and to self-regulate in terms of temperature. So we found fabrics that we could replicate the evaporation process, prolong it, and enhance it too by basically creating new types of yarns. And that's where a lot of our IP sits. But we did that and we realized like the heat is a massive challenge for athletes. It declines their performance by 50%. After 1 hour in the heat, you literally physically lose up to 50% of your output, your
Right.
capacity. It's crazy. you can cramp, the cognitive decline. There's all kinds of issues. Certainly there's serious issues too, but we thought if we could partner with the best athletes in the world and make stuff that works for them, we can make it for everybody. So we went to Serena Williams in 2009, 10, when she was just about to hit the big. We went to Dwayne Wade and we went to Drew Brees, and we said, we'll give you a piece of the business, help us develop product, help us test it. And when you say it's the best thing ever, we'll take it to market. We'll sell it to every athlete on earth. And so we did that. And we went to Dick's and we went to, Academy.
What
and
a
we went
learning curve all this is.
everywhere. Crazy.
I mean,
the
from
real
that to the
sauce
athlete
is,
negotiations to like reaching out to like who's the guy, like all of it is such a
yeah.
like there's some big steps that are glossed over there. Is like we went to Serena Williams. It's
Yeah.
like
Well, yeah. Well, I mean,
step
no, but you're
three.
right. Like it's about, one of the things that has always been told to me, everyone says it's not what you know, it's who you know. And
Yeah,
everyone's like, yeah, that's the golden rule. But actually, I think it's wrong. It's not what you know and it's not who you know. It's what you do with who you know that makes the
sure.
difference. You know a lot of people, but you don't do anything with them, like forget it. And
Yeah,
that,
and if
by
they
the way,
think you're
what
an
you do with
asshole,
them,
it's not great.
exactly. What you do with them is you serve them. You serve them at every point you possibly can without the expectation of anything in return. But if something does pop up where their area of expertise could help you in a situation, guess who's going to be the first in line to help you? Them. So that is your role in life. Serve others.
Man,
Full stop. But
that's
that aside,
100% what's built anything I've got as well.
yeah.
Like no doubt
Yeah.
that I got lucky enough to spend a lot of time with other mentors in the space, whether Kelly Starrett or Aubrey Marcus or any of these other guys, man. Like I got a chance to, I think about my dad a lot. And one of those things I think about were like, who are his 6 best resources for like what's going on in his life? And there's 6 guys that work in a refinery with him that grew up in the same town he grew up in.
Yeah.
Like if I look at my 6 guys, like I got wizards.
Yeah, man.
And Tony Robbins.
Great way to explain it.
Tony Robbins or any of those guys who have it, whatever that it is. You go back 400 or 500 years, there's no way we don't call these people wizards. That guy's got the power of voice to hold a crowd and create change in them emotionally. If he's in a cloak instead of a suit, like this is a wizard. Especially think about how that story would get told for the next 100 years without video or photographic evidence. They'd be like, he said things and magic got felt in the room.
Yeah. Yeah.
And stories
the
are told.
Guy was going to kill himself in 1 second.
Yeah.
Yeah. Dude, I saw it firsthand with Tony. My wife and I went to Date with Destiny, which that was like insanity for a week. I just watched it. It was nuts.
Like in the last week, I watched it.
It was awesome.
The
Netflix thing.
Yeah.
I know. I was actually in the opening scene where that guy says, I'm suicidal, and Tony changed his life, and he gets lifted up in the air. I was underneath him lifting him. That was awesome. That was me under it. It was hilarious. It was so great. But that is where like a lot of this, kind of gets burned into your collective conscious. It's the power of choice. And we saw it firsthand. He actually calls it Suicide Day. And there are people there that don't come to Tony Robbins because they want to figure out how to sharpen the saw. They come to see him because someone else dragged their ass in that auditorium because they had a gun in their mouth 12 hours earlier. Like there's several of those. Several of those. And he goes one by one, dude, and just literally you watch him take these people from where they are to the depths. You go dark. And I don't know how he figures out how to do this in a room of Date with Destiny is smaller. It's like 2,000 people. And then he takes them up to a point where they are catapulted into the world in a way that is the most beautiful thing you've ever seen. It's incredible, the work that he does. And it's not hocus pocus.
I would say my experience with psychedelics was very similar.
No way. For real?
So that's essentially what I would consider one of the big mechanisms of like how they really work. Is that it's doing the exact same.
Because I have not done them.
Yeah.
I've seen them. But that
like so you know how like he takes you down to that depth, right? Like so you go down to the depth, for sure. But there's something about like the medicine and especially set and setting that there's a safety to it and allows you to explore it.
Yeah.
Which is what's happening in the room with him. It's the same mechanism, right? That person is being seen for the first time and still being loved with all their guts exposed.
Yes.
And then from there, being able to realize that you're not those feelings. They're your reactions to X, Y, and Z, which has set up a chain reaction of blah, blah, blah. And so like I got the same snap from that.
Wow.
But yeah, it's
wow.
I find the mechanism behind what's going on really interesting. That like it's only through that exposure to the dark can you open up more of the map.
Wow, dude, I love that. That's great. And yeah, you're dead right. I mean, that's what I got to experience. And I think for the people that were in that room that were not suicidal, him showing you that puts in context the stuff that you think you're dealing with in your life. That's first and foremost. But B, it shows you that when you think you're at the bottom, there is a very clear and specific way out. Like when you think you're there, and by the way, like you may have thought you've already gone through it. You may have tried to kill yourself already. Like you could be at the depths of the depths and not even know that there's a way. There is absolutely a way out. There's a recipe. It does require some choices. But once you make those choices, the sky's the limit in terms of what's in front of you. And you can go on and really have a life of impact. And I think ultimately, Matt, is what you're after. Like, I love mission. I love selling products. But like, if I can create a system where millions of people can be healthier and more productive and avoid injuries, and like that's a pursuit that I'm excited to go after.
Yeah, you're empowering people
because
to
that's impactful. And I call it purposeful profits. It's okay to make money in that endeavor and to make a lot of it, because I'm going to take the money that I make and I'm going to pour it into my other passion.
That's right.
Which is leadership and taking people so that there's more people that can scale new businesses and new opportunities. It's serving and serving and serving and serving and serving. And I finally figured that out. That is the recipe. Serve with all of your heart. Serve with all of your might and soul and strength. Serve to a point where people think, dude, what are you doing? You're giving too much. And do it in a way that is humble and authentic and real, and don't expect a single thing in return.
Here's the only other caveat I've thrown on top of all of agreeance with what you're saying there. The same rule has to apply how I serve me.
Dude, amen. Yes.
Because that limitation will allow how I'm allowed for others to help me. Like that, amount that I have my own self-love will limit the amount of love I can experience.
No doubt. And on the inverse, it'll maximize the impact we're able to have.
Right. And that's where I look at like, the self-love is the consistency. It is getting up and moving my body. It is doing these physical things. It is doing the things that I said were important to me. And when I'm in alignment with those things kind of go great. And when they're not, I struggle. Dude, I want to thank you so much, man.
Thank you, brother.
I would love to connect more, dude. It's been a real pleasure.
We need to. Well, just know I'm following and watching everything.
Same.
I'm just a big fan. And Matt, I mean this when I say it. If there is anything I can do to support your pursuit, I'm here for you, man. Like, honestly, anything. Business, life, all of it.
Thank you.
That extends to everyone in the family. And please be sure to tell Mom and
I will.
Andy and everybody, just send my best, and that I think about you guys all the time. And, I certainly miss you guys. Hopefully we'll get to see everybody soon, but we'll all stay in touch.
I'd like that. Where are you currently? Are you back in Dallas?
Yeah, back in Dallas. Been back for a couple of years with the kiddos.
All right. So. I'll just figure out a reason to get to Dallas. I got Burning Man in a couple weeks, but after that, we'll see what's coming up.
Nice. And where are you now? What's home base?
I'm in St. Louis.
That's right. Okay.
Yep. St. Louis has become home, and it's been good. I won't live here forever, but I don't plan on living anywhere forever, so that's great.
Yeah, right. Why? I'll when I'm out there next, I'm gonna give you a shout.
Dude, I'd love it. Chris, thank you so much, man.
Thank you, brother. Hang in there.
Thanks, man.